Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I'm your host, Joe Abadi. I want to thank Jordan Woodworth, Chelsea, Susie, everyone that helps put the show together every week, and I want to thank you, the people at home who take time to come and watch the show. Right now, I'll tell you a little bit more about what's going on. Let's get down to the starting line. Next time, try this segment. I'm going to give you a great tip on how to put on stickers. In the Moto Showcase, we take a look at a 1974 Honda CR250. And here's the problem. We've got at least 3 or 4 questions coming up. You're going to learn something through every one of them. In the What's It Worth segment, we take a look at a Hodaka Combat Wombat. Great looking bike. We're going to show you more in a little while. Just how I see it, we had electric bikes this week at Loretta Lynn's. You'll hear my take on that. The 522 project continues. We've got a great video coming up for you. You're going to learn more about what we did to modify the cases on this bike. If you can, please reach down to your phone, or if you're on your computer, please share the show. Invite some of your friends. Come over and watch Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'd like to have everyone join us as often as possible. We're also on Facebook, we're also on YouTube. So you can join us on YouTube. You can join us there. You can get an alert, remind you when the show will be coming up. So get over and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can watch all the past episodes of Vintage Motocross Q&A at any time in HD on your television. So don't forget to share it. By the way, whoever shares it tonight, that's what I forgot to say. Whoever shares it tonight, a random person is going to be picked by Susie. Whoever shares the show tonight is going to win this clock. Compliments of AMSOIL, the first in synthetic. You're going to get this clock shipped to your door from AMSOIL. So share the show, and later on we'll pick a random winner. You're going to get this clock. I want to thank our sponsors, Preston Petty Products, Vinco, AMSOIL, our 2 new sponsors, Nightmare Racing, the finest reproduction Kawasaki plastic in the business, and Full Circle Racing Limited, perhaps the best wheel builder in all the Northeast. Tom McAllister, I want to thank you for joining us. Mark Hildebrand also. We're going to be telling you more about some of the products from Nightmare and Full Circle Racing on future episodes. On the Next Time Try This segment tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about sticker placement and how you'll be able to move a sticker around a little bit if you follow these simple instructions. A lot of times when people buy graphics, on the logo, it might be a little thinner toward the end, like there is on this Fast Guy sticker. When I say thinner, I'm talking about the logo itself. In other words, if you had to stick it in place and you wanted to move it, you might not have much luck peeling it back off and trying to move it again. But I'm going to show you a little technique that I've used over the years, and I think you're going to like it, and it's going to work for you. Before placing your sticker on, you can use some Windex. Soapy water works pretty well too. Windex works just as well. You spray a little on the tank, just like this. When you peel away your sticker, and you can see that sticker is pretty thin. You can put your sticker in place, but now you can actually move it, just like you see here. So you can put it exactly where you want it. And what I like to use is a sponge, just like this, a new sponge. Some people will recommend using a credit card or a squeegee like this where you can apply putty. I don't really like to use that. You run the risk of scratching up the sticker and maybe even peeling it up from the edge. So I keep the sponge a little moist. And I just keep wiping away while trying to keep the sticker in place. I wipe away the excess from underneath. And you keep doing that, nice and easy. Sponge works really well this way for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's nice and soft. It's not going to scratch the sticker or your paint. Number 2, it's going to absorb any of the water or Windex that you have underneath the new sticker you just put on. You can move the sticker wherever you like. It also works on any type of graphics, any type of sticker you're going to be putting on your tank. And that's my tip for this week on Next Time Try This. In the Moto Showcase, we got a 1974 Honda CR250 sent out to us by Mark Trout. Mark did a really great job restoring this bike. He's from Pennsylvania. He said he's owned the bike for about 3 years. He went through the bike from front to back, top to bottom, put in new bearings, new seals, new piston, did as much as he can by himself. He did a beautiful job. It is a great looking bike. You know, we were just thinking the other day that it's coming up before you know it. This bike will be 50 years old, 1974 Hondas. Will be 50 years old pretty soon. So if you've got one and you've got it put away and you've got it in real nice shape, like Mark Trout has right here, they're starting to look really great the older they get. I want to thank Mark Trout for sending this bike in. If you want to send a bike into us, he's a Bultaco guy too. If you want to send a bike into us, get some good close shots too. Get some shots of the engine if your bike is restored or rebuilt. Get some shots of the wheels. Send it into us. We'll feature it here in the Moto Showcase on Vintage Motocross Q&A. And we will get you a sticker pack from FastGuyStuff.com. Mark Trout, please send me your address, your mailing address. I'll be sure to get in touch with FastGuyStuff.com. We'll get you out a sticker pack. Thank you for sending in that bike. And I invite everyone who's watching us tonight to send me some pictures of your bikes. They don't have to be show bikes. They could be nice, clean race bikes, rebuilds, or restorations, whatever you have. Send them in to us. We'd be happy to feature them here on the show. And here's a problem segment. We take a look at 3 or 4 different questions tonight that people have sent in over the past week. Jordan, what do we got up first? Dennis Cox, what's the best vintage bike for reliability and performance? Same answer I've had for years, Dennis. The best bike for performance and reliability is a CZ. Nothing could beat it. 250 or an open bike, a 400. You can't really beat a CZ. There are a lot of places out there that sell parts for these bikes. They're readily available, and they're not extremely expensive. You got electronic transmissions. You got people making aftermarket pipes. Guys like Lanny J producing some really beautiful CZ replica tanks. I don't think you can get hurt for the money with a CZ. That's the most reliable and just about the best vintage bike out there at this time. John Hayes, are there bikes amateur restoration guys should stay away from due to the cost and the availability of parts? Yes, there are a lot of them. But let's talk about a few things here for a minute. Number one, if you're going to restore a bike and you're concerned about the cost and the availability of parts, it seems that everybody who's restoring a bike these days, or no matter what bike you get involved with, something is becoming more and more expensive all the time. And it doesn't matter what type of bike it is. As far as the availability of parts, some bikes are rarer than others, more difficult to get parts for. And Elsinore, just like we saw just a moment ago in the Moto Showcase, those things are getting really difficult to find pipes for, pickle silencers, and of course, the gas tank can be somewhat costly to have restored. But my advice is this: if you're going to take the time to restore a bike, especially these days where you have shows like this, Facebook, so many people sharing knowledge about how to restore a bike correctly, go restore the bike that you really, really want. Because in the end, you might want to keep it. So why just go through a rehearsal on a bike just because it's inexpensive, when you can get a bike that you might want to keep that really has some sentimental value to you? Buy what you want. Yes, the parts might be a little more expensive. They might be a little more difficult to find. But the gratification in the end, after you finish that bike, you're never going to forget it. And you might be looking at it for the rest of your life. So, yeah, there are bikes that are more expensive to restore than others. And parts are expensive and everything else has just gone up considerably. But restore the bike that you want. That's the one that's going to mean the most. You could spend time restoring a bike that isn't so expensive. But the rehearsal time you're going to spend on that bike, if you understand what I'm saying, the rehearsal time of learning how to polish, learning how to do certain things, you might as well put it into a bike you really want. Thanks for sending in the question. Jordan, what do we got up next? Joe Barger, how do I avoid over polishing aluminum parts? Well, a good way to do that is to use a buffing wheel like this. It's called a sisal wheel, S-I-S-A-L, sisal, and do it with black compound like you see right here. A sisal wheel and black compound will cut away anything that, let's say, 400 grit sandpaper would cut away. So you can really move a lot of material off a rough piece of aluminum with a sisal wheel and black emery without over polishing it. Now, if you go to a brown Tripoli or you go to a greasier compound and a soft buff, you're going to get a much high luster finish. You don't want to get that. You want to use a sisal wheel, you want to use black emery, you'll get a nice finish just like you see right there on that KX brake pedal. And look at it this way. If for some reason it gets too shiny for you, go back over it again with some really fine sandpaper like 320, or hit it with a Scotch-Brite pad and knock the shine off, and then try it again. It's a little bit of an experiment thing. You know, it's a little, what do they call it? Trial and error. It's a little trial and error sometimes. But if you have a nice piece of smooth aluminum, like this right here, which happens to be a spring keeper for a 1974 Honda CR250. Shouldn't be too shiny, but it should be shinier than what it is, and it could be a little bit cleaner. You'd hit that with a sisal wheel and some black emery, and you'll bring that up real close to what it was like originally in 1974. So, Margaret, thanks for the question. Sam Floridia. Big fan of the show, shares it so much. He's there for us every week. Sam Floridia wants to know, could I have this TIG welded and will it align with the screw holes when it's done? Let's see the picture, Jordan. Okay, Sam had a little chain derailment problem, I'm guessing, and on this XR400, I think it is, he had the chain or maybe some rocks got up in there and cracked the cover here. Sam, if the screws line up right now, after it's broken, here's what I would recommend. Have your welder weld it from the back. If he starts to squeeze it together, your screws might not line up anymore. See, right now, the way it's cracked, if the screws line up, I would have it welded from the back, TIG welded from the back. And then I would finish the front where you're gonna have a little groove there where the crack was. I would finish that with an epoxy. Let me tell you a little bit more about this. If you weld it from the front, the feed, the wire feed from a TIG is very hard. You're going to have a difficult time sanding it and contouring that weld if you do it across the front. If he pinches it a little bit and kind of gets it back into shape, you may not line up with those screws. And I'm going to go a little bit further here. Whatever broke that, whether it was a rock going in there or a stick or something like that, where those two slots are, where you could see the countershaft sprocket, that side cover was pulled down. That's how it cracked. It wasn't pushed up. It was pulled down. If he's able to, your welder, able to kind of clamp that together and squeeze it, your holes might line up again, but they might not. I would show him the picture. I would discuss it with the welder first to see what he thinks. Now, I'm gonna go a little bit further here. If he welds it and it doesn't quite line up, let's say 3 out of 4 of the holes line up, you could drill that hole, that mounting hole that's just above that crack, you could drill it out the next size bigger bit than that hole, and your hole more than likely will line up. Before you do any of this, Sam, my first piece of advice would be, see how much your welder wants to fix that, consider the time and effort that's gonna take, and maybe go look for a different cover. Sam, thanks for the question, and thanks for your support every week with all your shares and being here with the show and joining us every week. Thanks, Sam. In the What's It Worth segment, we're live with this week. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get in touch and hook up with Bill Masho like we have been doing the last few weeks. Schedules sometimes don't allow us to do that. So I'll be bringing you the 73 Hodaka Combat Wombat 125, which sold in Colorado just a couple of weeks ago, just last week. Actually, it's 8/12/20. This must have sold on 7/12/20, because not even I have the gift of prophecy. Isn't today only the 11th? Anyway, or it's the 12th. Anyway, $4,800 when I first looked at it. I thought $4,800 was a little rich for a Hodaka Combat Wombat. But the more I started to look at it, I took some things into consideration. Number one, the chrome on the tank was beautiful. There wasn't a dent in it. It had the correct shouldered rims. They were aluminum. They were polished. The spokes looked nice. The hubs were done. The engine cases looked great. And according to the description that the seller had given us, it had a new rod kit, new crank bearings, new piston kit. The engine ran and shifted perfectly, and everything about the bike was really nice. So for $4,800, I thought it was a pretty fair deal. If someone's out there looking for a Hodaka for display that runs and has everything correctly done about it. Look at the hubs, look at the shocks. Everything looks really great on this bike. The number plates, the kickstand, $4,800 was really, really a good deal, and I'm going to show you why. 73 Combat Wombat just sold in Florida, $2,700, and another one sold for $1,525 in Minnesota. Yeah, the one in Minnesota, $1,525, seemed like a real good deal, and I guess it was. Neither one of these bikes were running, and it said so in the description on eBay. So, if fairly complete bikes are selling on average of $2,000, the one for $4,800 sure had a lot done to it, had a lot of parts, had a lot of time invested into it, and I think $4,800 was a great deal. And if you're looking for one that needs to be restored, you're probably going to pay somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 for it. So, $4,800, thought it was a fair deal on the 73 Decal Combat Wombat. 522 project continues. This is the bike we've been Sorry, Jordan. This is the bike we've been... Jordan, back up. The 522 project continues. This is the bike we've been replicating for a while now. We are building a bike to replicate the 1974 Honda RC125 that Marty Smith rode to the national championship that year. When we first began the 522 project, one of the problems I knew we were going to have were finding a set of engine cases that were undamaged, especially the left side. Chain derailment over the years on 74 through 77 models has left very few really nice cases left. But what I discovered was that an adverse condition was going to be a real opportunity for us, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about right now. We've assembled the bottom end of our 522 project, and at first glance, everything looks just as you would think it would. We've had our little trick ignition cover on there, and everything looks pretty nice and tidy. What you may not notice at first is all the webbing that we took away and machined off in order to make that look the way it does. Everything that's marked right here in yellow has been removed from our finished set of cases. You can see here where the damage was done by a chain previously. We also machined away all this area right here where our wires would come out if the bike we were putting back together were completely stock. The ignition wires would normally be routed through this passage right here and would come up through the top of the case, and then they would connect with the other wires that go to your CDI box and the rest of your ignition system. Over here you could see that we made a mark because I want to show you on the other engine what we did. We actually milled a slot right in here so our wires can come out through the front of the engine just as you would find it on a 74 RC125. Now when you look at the two engines closely, you can actually see how much material was removed from the cases in order to make our engine look more authentic. Join us next week for another update in the 522 project. I'll be making another video, and I'm looking forward to bringing it to you. In the product spotlight tonight, we have, drum roll please, Preston Petty Products. We are an authorized dealer for Preston Petty, and this week, Paul and Patty Standard have given us a really great special on all products that are available from Preston Petty. Whether it's shirt, grips, fenders, whatever it might be, 10% off on everything across the board at Preston Petty Products. Please inbox me for the code. I'll get it for you. When you check out, put that code in, you're going to get 10% off anything at Preston Petty this week.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, Only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
I want to thank Vinco for being a sponsor. And while we were running that commercial, Susie came in and gave me the name Robbie Horner. Robbie Horner is the random sharer of the show tonight. And Robbie, if you get us your address, I'm going to get this clock out to you. Compliments of Amsoil, the first in synthetics. Great looking clock to hang in your shop. Robbie Horner, thanks for sharing the show and thanks for watching tonight. Amsoil, thank you, Russell Waters, for giving us all the great swag and things we're able to give away here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Jordan, what do we got up next? Just how I see it. In this past week at the Loretta Lynn's race, biggest race in the country for the amateurs, for the first time they had an electric bike class. It was the minis, and they let them go around pretty good, and well, it was rather quiet was what it was. So Jordan has a little video for us here. You'll be able to see this. So it's gas versus electric, and the future is here. The future is kind of quiet by the way it sounds there at Loretta Lynn's just for that one class. I did put a post on Facebook asking people what they thought about that, and I had well over 135 comments come in. And there were a lot of pros and a lot of cons about what people thought. Comments from, well, you still got to run generators, to how many different classes will there be for electric bikes? Wayne Reed said, moto is moto. If this will extend the future of our sport, I'm all for it. There's a pro, Wayne Reed. Pro statement there. Some of the cons. Moto is moto. Oh, this is also a good statement. Love it. Any new attention to our sport is something we should all embrace. What else do we have, Jordan? Donnie Proctor, I think electric cross has its place next to baseball fields and skateboard park. You know, Donnie Proctor, I agree with that. And that's one of the really great things about this. I think it's a way to get the younger kids, the first-time riders involved, and you could do it in a space where there's not going to make much noise. It's not all about gasoline and all this other stuff that goes on. And it really, really could be an entryway for younger people to get involved in the sport. So I do agree with that. What else do we have here, Jordan? Scott Tremblay, somebody stop the madness. Scott, not a fan of the electric bike. I get that too. What else? Charles Osterday does nothing for me or the rider. How boring. I don't know. You know, tough racing or close racing is close racing. And, well, maybe you just can't picture it yet to where two guys are going head to head in some championship and they're really battling out there. So, I don't know. It might be boring right now when you're thinking about it, but it might not be so boring somewhere down the road when there's a lot on the line and people have really moved up and the performance of the bikes has really moved up too. So who knows where that might go. Tom Gibbons, I understand it, but I will never accept or conform to it. Well, I'll tell you what. It wasn't long ago when people sat there and said, Supercross, they destroyed it. They put 4 strokes in there. Where's the 2 strokes? I hate 4 strokes. Yet you still watch it. So don't say you can't adapt to it. Don't say you can't really see where it's going. Now, do I think that there's going to be a lot of different classes like at Loretta's? I mean, here's a great example. 80cc, 80cc modified, 80cc schoolboy, 80cc 10 to 15, schoolboy, college boy. I don't know how that engine thing is going to work as far as different sizes, but if they have some exhibition races the first couple of years, I don't see any harm in that. I wouldn't even mind seeing that in a Supercross race. I wouldn't mind seeing it anywhere. Do I think it should be the be-all and the end-all, and we should just call it all off with the combustion engine? No, I don't. I think that's the heart of the sport and it should always be there. So, anyway, there were a lot of comments on it. Those are just my thoughts on it, and the future's here, and some days it's real quiet. What's next, Jordan? We've got some announcements for you. First thing up is Vintage Motocross Radio. It's been going really good. We had Mary McGee on last week. A great interview. Jordan's got some sound bites from it right here. We're going to play them for you.
I went to sign up, and I had my 2 licenses, AFM and SCCA.
Yes.
The guy looked at me and said, "Oh, you can't race." I said, "I beg your pardon?" "Yes, I can." And he said, "No, you can't race." "Well, why?" And he said, "Because you're a woman." I said, "No, I've been racing SCCA and AFM now for 2-3 years."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Well, no woman has ever raced here before." So the guy finally said, "I'll be back." He went and grabbed a couple of guys, and they went outside the little tent thing that they were under. And I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes later, he came back and he said, "Okay, you can race this one time." That happened in 1972. It was Steve McQueen. Now, I've known Steve for several years from car racing, right?
Yes.
So he came up to me and he said, "Mary McGee, you have got to get off that pansy road racing bike and come out to the desert." I, of course, said, "Ew," and get dirty. Well, people around kind of laughed. Right away, my husband said, "I can get you a bike." McQueen then said, "Well, there you go. You can come out." So he indeed got a bike. I said I would give it a try. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I went out trail riding with some of the guys and got out there every 2 or 3 weeks for a couple of, almost 2 months. So then I got a call from Bobby Harris one day. He said, "Mary, you're going to be our 4th for an enduro." I said, "Bobby, I can't do that. I haven't been riding long enough." He said, "Oh, no, you're good. You can do it." I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Oh, yeah, this is the easiest one of the year." So met them at Jawbone Canyon. I was indeed one of the 4. Took off. And honest to God, it goes up and up and up and up the top of the Tehachapi's. And then everybody disappears left. I stop, look, and they've all gone down this huge hill. You can't even see the bottom. It's the famous Jawbone Canyon hill.
Ah.
I was stopped, and here comes Dave Eakins. And he said, "Mary, did we forget to teach you how to go downhill?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, this is easy. Here's what you do. Put it in 3rd gear and go." My mouth fell open. I was flabbergasted. And he took off. And I thought, well, I can't stay up here. So I did. I got it into 3rd gear, and I went down to the bottom. I did fall 2 or 3 times, but I got down to the bottom. Finally got down to the Jawbone Canyon, little cafe there. And honest to God, guess what they said?
What's that?
"Oh, that was the toughest one of the year." I could have shot them all.
Mary McGee was a fascinating guest last week. If you get a moment, listen to that. This week coming up on Vintage Motocross Radio at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, we will have for you the Yaroslav Falta interview that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks. I was able to spend 2 hours on the phone with Falta. It was on a Friday. We had his daughter translating. It's a fascinating story. He told us so much about his time in Czechoslovakia and racing all over the world. Of course, the controversial World Championship. This Sunday, you'll be able to hear the whole thing on Vintage Motocross Radio at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's this Sunday. Please join us. Vintage Motocross Q&A T-shirts are still available, $21.99. You got the logo on the front. You got some great information on the back. There's $21.99 for a great cotton T-shirt with our logo on it. So if you order it and get a picture of yourself, send it in. We'd love to post it here on Vintage Motocross Q&A. FastGuyStuff.com. I want to thank Sean Gillen once again for supplying us with stickers every week for the Moto Showcase. Get a moment, go visit FastGuyStuff.com. Got a great variety of stickers over there for all your vintage and some of your modern stuff too. Sean Gomes, FastGuyStuff.com. Sponsorship opportunities are still available here. In the past week, a couple of weeks actually, we were able to hook up with Nightmare Racing and, of course, Full Circle Racing. We're going to be bringing some specials from both of those companies in the very near future. I want to thank them for coming on board with us. But as you can see, right over here, there is space available. So if you want to get your company on Vintage Motocross Q&A and get some exposure, I would strongly recommend that you inbox me and I will get you a sponsorship proposal package. In this past week, we had a really, really good week this week, higher than ever. We reached over 28,000 people in 1 week. That's from people watching the show, people watching it on YouTube, and people sharing. 28,000 in 1 week. I think we're going to break 100,000 people seeing the show for the month of August. So Vinco's doing it, Amsoil's doing it. We've got some new sponsors, and they're going to be seeing some results too. Why not your show here at Vintage Motocross Q&A? Get in touch with me. We'll hook you up with a package. We'll get you some great exposure, more than you could ever do on your own. I want to thank everybody for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A tonight. I am your host, Joe Abadi. Don't forget to join us for the Falta interview on Sunday on Vintage Motocross Radio. Gino boy. Hey, there's my guy. Okay. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.